Bench Opinions. Three idiots with amateur analysis.
Welcome to another episode of Bench Opinions, everyone. There's not a lot of colour on this couch today. A lot of people wearing black. Got some green pants and some red socks. And that's about all you're going to get from us today. But there's colour in our hearts.
Yes.
Because we have the most promising, talented youngster in rugby playing for South Africa and the Stormers.
Kanan Moody.
Sasha Feinberg-Mngomezulu putting on an absolute exhibition. The Springboks beat Argentina 67-30.
Yes, that's it.
And in the other game, New Zealand kept their Eden Park record alive with a 33-24 victory against Australia. But we'll start with the Springboks. Dom, you watched the game, I assume?
I did, yes.
You did. And what did you think?
I'm quite chuffed because there was two things that I wouldn't say predicted, but I mentioned going into the game. And the first one is I very clearly mentioned I felt like Sasha Feinberg-Mngomezulu needed to put on a show. He needed to get 60 plus minutes in the legs, which he did, and very valiantly and flamboyantly did so. And the second thing I said was when we were talking about how did the Springboks sort of front up to the way Argentina play, I mentioned that I think, it might be risky, but with the sort of more expansive play that we've started to try and explore, it might work it could work in our favor. It would be a double-edged sword because Argentina did exploit the sort of looseness of the game a couple times. I felt like, particularly in the first half, there was some concerns around discipline on our side. We can get into that, but just how open and how easy they could carve us past. And as once I thought we were completely past them scoring another try, but both those things sort of coming true in the sense that Sasha did get that 60 minutes and played so well, and the Springboks able to almost beat Argentina at their own game to a certain degree, I feel as well.
Yeah. Definitely a tale of two halves, you would say. After the first half, the game was very tight. Argentina were definitely in it. Klaus, what changed in the second half?
What changed in the second half? I mean, I think because of the way that we're playing, which we saw a little bit of it in the first 20 minutes in that first Australia game. There's this really fast-paced running rugby with a lot of tactical kicking. Then we saw it 2 weeks ago in Wellington, and then we saw it for a full 80 minutes. Not quite as well as we played in the second half, but the first half still had elements of that in the first half. And what it did is it knackered the Argentinians. And by the time they got into the second half, we were clicking more. We were finally like hitting second, third, fourth gear, and as they were starting to fade away physically and mentally, including a couple of disruptions to their backline, because I think they lost like 3 guys in the space of 5 minutes at a point in the game. We were able to just run riot. And I think that was the difference between the first and second half. They were still able to put up a fight, but they were going beyond their pacing for the game.
It also seemed like, to come on to the point of the second half, that seemed to be very clear in the minds of the way we wanted to play the game, knowing that Argentina have come back off the back of pretty poor last 20-minute periods in this whole tournament. And that's what I liked as well. Bringing someone like Kwagga Smith on, who was just all over the park. I think that just exploits the fact that they're not carrying a lot of confidence in those last 20 minutes and have been found out. I would say, other than the win against New Zealand, they've gone on to kind of fall apart a little bit against or at least tire out, as you say, going into the last 20 minutes.
Is it, I wouldn't say concerning, because it's a very resounding win nonetheless. And I mean, if you look at our points difference in the log, it's miles ahead of second place. Is it concerning, though, that our defense does provide so many opportunities to the opposition at this point?
Yes and no. I think as long as you're scoring more than the other team, then it doesn't really matter, right? I think for pride, you obviously want to hold a team 2-0 in advertent commas, like hold them down as much as possible. But you got to look at how those points were scored this weekend. One of the tries being a penalty try that was poor discipline rather than a failing of systems in that sense. And then the other try being Cheslin Kolbe's, for lack of a better term, brain fart and passing. I mean, you can discuss whether that's in the spirit of the game that Chocobara sort of took advantage of that or not. But my personal opinion is in the eyes of the law, the way that he passed that, it could also be utilized as a quick restart and you can try and catch your opponent off guard. So, it could go either way. And I think in that case, it's just a bit of a silly situation. It happened to Cheslin Kolbe, fortunately, who is a guy who redeemed himself tenfold thereafter.
Got enough credit in the bank.
So nobody holds it against him. And especially with the way that we then went about winning, it all's well that ends well in that sense. But take those 2 tries away and then you're looking at a much lower scoring against us. So I don't think it was that bad, but it is something that we kind of give up when we have this rush defense that we have, which we also utilize to our benefit as an attacking defensive system.
I think it's what's going to be decisive to see the evolution of this sort of attacking style and us scoring so many points or more points than we used to. It's going to be the trip up north now at the end of the year. I think Ireland, France, maybe not as much, but Ireland will definitely look to kind of contain the game a little bit more, I think, than the Argentinians or Southern Hemisphere sides, particularly those of the ilk that we're seeing at the moment. Australia playing very expansive rugby, New Zealand always looking to run the ball, as well as Argentina. So that'll be quite interesting because I think our opportunities will be harder to come by, scoring-wise. But on the same hand, they can really cut through us. And I think the bigger concern for me is still discipline a little bit. And this in this sense, I don't actually mean foul play discipline. I mean, we conceded a lot of penalties and a lot of stupid penalties early on in that game. Malcolm Marx also just, costing, that was another brain fart, I would argue, is just coming in, that Moore situation coming in from the side and then collapsing. And again, he was redeemed by Sasha Feinberg-Mngomezulu because of his quick thinking and making sure that we get the restart and he turned into a try. Otherwise, I think that looks a lot more stupid than it did for him.
Yeah. I think it's worth talking about Sasha for a bit longer just because I think it was the record for the most amount of points scored by an individual for a Springboks team. I think 37.
37 points.
Yeah. Or wasn't 37 tied with Percy Montgomery and then he got 39 because of that last conversion? Something we should have looked up going into this podcast.
Seems like that should be the job of the host. I don't know if there's superlatives to explain his performance because it seems like he did everything. He kicked well, both out of hand and off the tee. And his vision for the Cheslin Kolbe try is fantastic, although you'll expect something similar from someone like Mani too. But then, I mean, something that I haven't seen out of him specifically was how he took the one try where he threw the dummy. Because that was, you could deem it almost as like very, like it's not selfish, but it's like very sort of, I'm the guy who's going to do this, sort of, give me the ball, I will do this for us. And how he chased down his own kick and basically took it off Moody's foot and scored again. That's very much sort of main character attitude that he's showing.
When you look at the way that he played the game, obviously his skill set is phenomenal, and you could go and say like it's on the same level or even surpasses the likes of an Antoine Dupont. It's very Dan Carter-esque the way that he plays the game, and I think the skill set that one doesn't speak about because it's not something you see is his awareness of a game and how he reads the game. You just mentioned you just spoke about him chasing down his own kick, right? His own grubber kick through, which I think he was intending to go for a 50-22.
I think so too.
I
think half of the Argentinians also thought so.
Probably, but the way that it bounced, it stayed in field and he managed to chase it down. But as he's running up to it, he can see out of the corner of his eye that Moody is parallel to him. And if they both go for the ball, they're probably going to fumble it. And you can see him just hold out his hand and just go like, no. Let one of us take control of this. I'm going to do it, right? Moody, for all intents and purposes, probably could have scored that try as well. But just having this awareness to communicate with the people around you, so that everybody's sort of going along the same lines. You saw Moody back off and give him the space that he needed, and I mean, it's a phenomenal try to run at that pace, pick up a ball off the ground, and then still control it. Unreal. The same with the dummy, but also things like the crossfield kick, the way that he saw that space, and then also credit must go to Cheslin Kolbe running onto that ball at that pace is also a feat that needs to be sort of
commended.
Exactly. But it's that awareness of where everybody is in the field and how he can utilize people around him to create space. That's what you need to really praise in his game.
I think there's a lot of parallels between Willemse's performance in Wellington as well as Sasha Feinberg-Mngomezulu's performance, albeit they're at very different phases of their career. But it does seem like a little bit of a coming of age situation. I think they have to back that up again and again and again. But I think this was a very big leap forward in. Also, I think reaffirming I think all of us knew that he has a broad skill set. Interesting to see his leadership qualities. I think that's what you can stamp it with. It's very much leadership. You can call it main character energy. I see some people already speaking about if there isn't a detrimental side to the cockiness, I guess they're calling it, and this overconfidence. I think that's just people maybe being over careful. I think the one enables the other. His level of confidence allows him to even be audacious enough to attempt some of the things that he attempts. So I think that's going to be maybe something that Rassie will be looking to manage, I think, for sure. I think he's someone that, if you look across his school career, has always been captain material. He's been at the forefront of all the teams he's played through, all the age groups. So I think he's a natural leader and maybe someone that will put their hand up for captain. But I think, look, Willemse now unfortunately seems to be out of the next Argentina game, which is something we spoke about that we needed to go on and kick on. So let's hope that he can stay fit, because I think that's one of the big question marks.
With Sasha, I think he's also got the understanding that the reason he is able to do what he did is because of the work that the forwards are putting in.
Absolutely.
And without them, he isn't able to shine the way he is. Skalkberger was actually saying it in the commentary. This was an amazing performance, and we should give him his flowers for what he's achieved, but we can't go forward expecting him to perform like this week in, week out. This was a very special occasion. I think he's a great talent, probably a generational talent if he can remain fit, but we can't expect him to be scoring 37 plus points every weekend.
And I also don't want us to turn into a team that has one superstar.
One trick pony,
Yeah. And I mean, France aren't a team that only has one superstar. They're littered with superstars.
Absolutely.
But Dupont does dominate conversation. It's the same as Finn Russell for Scotland. And it's just, there's our team is littered with other people who do so much more work that isn't recognized in points.
I think, ironically, this thrusts someone like Mani Liebok and his importance completely into the conversation, and the fact that he's found some kicking form, because I think we need two fly halves and I think they both sing from a similar hymn book in the way they play rugby. So we can be very thankful that Mani's been able to find his kicking form. Pollard will still play a role, of course, I think, for games that you need to maybe manage a little bit more. But thank goodness, but I agree with you 100%. I think getting to the point where, of course, France felt Dupont's absence, and even when Dupont came into that quarterfinal in the World Cup with, carrying an injury, I think it definitely affected him, and that over-reliance on a player can definitely sort of maybe, I don't know, heavily impact the sort of balance of a side, so I agree with you 100%.
Speaking of kicking form, did Sasha get a memo that you get bonus points for hitting the post? Because I think 4 of his kicks hit the post.
Do you?
I don't know, Red. Is it a new rule that I don't know about?
Well, I mean, listen, off the post and in still counts.
No pictures on a scorecard.
But that being said, actually, Mani's kicking is a little bit better currently.
Yeah. Listen, I'll take it as a Stormers fan.
Yeah.
Well, Mani's not there anymore, but I'll take Sasha's form as well. Klaus, any other standout performances from any individuals that you want to highlight?
For those who know me well, for the longest time, before he became sort of a world-class player, I was always banging on about Lukhanyo Am.
Yes.
And now the next outside centre has entered my love life, and that is Kanan Moody. And what Kanan Moody brings to the table, I think, is very, very interesting at outside centre because he has so much wing experience. He is just so used to chasing the high ball, which means that the likes of a Sasha, Andre, and Mani can kick the high up and unders, not on the touchline, but in the middle of the field. He's not always going to get it, but if he does get it, or if he disrupts it enough, that allows us to set up a ruck in the middle of the field and then attack left and right of that ruck. Whereas if you're on the touchline, obviously you can only go open side, right? So just his ability and his skill set allows us to play a very different attacking game, which opens up a whole new world for us.
Your eyes light up with excitement.
And he's a phenomenal player. I mean, he was involved everywhere. He was cleaning out rucks. He was chasing balls. I mean, that guy also has an engine on him, which is
Incredible
unreal.
pace. Yeah.
And then obviously very, very versatile in the back. You can move him around the back three if need be. So when Andre Esterhuizen came in, he then moved over to wing for Colby. Sasha went back for Willemse. When he went out with his injury, Mani came in at 10. So there seems to be a very healthy balance of maneuverability in the back line that we've currently got.
Dom, anyone that you want to mention?
I think Jasper Wiese having a fantastic game again. I think a
100%.
standout performer. I think Sia continues to just perform at a high level.
Yeah.
I think that's something that we have to keep harping on about, because I think with all the question marks over the last few months, I think there's no doubt that he is the 6.
Yeah.
In combination of being the captain of that side.
Well, that whole back row, that combination is unreal.
Yeah, I mean, Peter Steph, we don't even have to talk about him.
Two tries.
I saw someone say, tweet or make an X post and say, he's under celebrated. I'm like, no, he's
No, I don't think he's
definitely not
under-celebrated, no.
under celebrated. He's like former Rugby World Player of the Year.
Yeah.
Everyone knows he's good, and he just keeps being good. I think that's interesting. Front row again seems to be betting in a little bit. Unfortunately, Ox had to pull out, but it's
Fenter stood up. I thought he played really
Fenter
nicely.
stood up, and all of a sudden those options seem to be less questionable. There's less of a question mark over names, and I think that's exactly where you want to be at this time of this part of the season. I'm a little bit concerned, I have to be honest, by the inside center role, just because Delendi was okay. I mean, it's hard to criticize, but I think we're getting into a situation now where you really need to try and get Willemse into that 12 jersey, but he's injured again now. So going into the next game, a couple of question marks there, and just hoping that these guys can stay fit.
Andre Esterhuizen at inside center.
Fantastic. I think that's a no-brainer, luckily, to come in there. But the question marks are now over the 15. I don't know how you guys see it. I would personally make sure that Sasha keeps that number 10 jersey going to Twickenham, just to continue the form and let him continue to build.
I think, unfortunately, we don't have many covers in the squad right now for 15.
I think Willie Leroux could be an option. I think just to manage the game and get a result, because at the end of the
Did
day,
he fly across to the UK? Because I know he was released for the game.
The Bulls game. Yeah,
I don't know if
he definitely trained all week.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure that he would have now, in light of Willemse having a niggle, or looks like he. Some people say he's even confirmed to be out of the game against Argentina on Saturday, that he might have gone across.
Going over to London, do you think Rusty's going to make a lot of changes, kind of like he did between Eden Park and Wellington?
I think there will be a few changes, but not wholesale, because I think he does want to win the Rugby Championship. I think that's very important to him.
Sorry, you mentioned standout players. Special shout out, because I'm a little bit of a doubter and have been, to Fineberg. I felt he came on and really, really looked to push the team, and I think he was exactly the type of energy to exploit the Argentinian side maybe running out of gas. He was everywhere, and I really liked the look of him.
Yeah. Let's switch over to the London game before we cover the other game that happened this weekend. Squads are going to be announced when this comes out. Today, as you hear this, squads will be coming out. What do you think Rusty's strategy will be? I'd be surprised if he really changes a lot, just because it's a settled team. One does have to say, London is probably more of a home ground for us than it is for Argentina. Not because we're more used to Twickenham, just because I think we will have more South African fans in attendance, and we have played there quite a lot over the last 3-4 years. Just before that World Cup, beating New Zealand there.
I think the case of Willemse will push Rassie to try and sort of explore continuity where he can, and that's why I think he'll start, because I think there's nothing Rassie would have wanted nothing more than playing Willemse at 12 again, going into this game with Argentina, and it was just the injury of Fassi, for example, that was forced his hand into playing Willemse at 15. I don't think he had a terrible game. I don't think he was incredible, but I don't think he had a bad game. But I think you would think he might have been able to, again, just have another go at that 12 jersey where he started in Wellington and go. And I think because of that, I think now's the time the guys have put their hands up. if their hands are up, let them play, and let's see if they can keep answering the questions. That's what I would think.
I wonder at 15 if they don't go, because he's played there before, is put Ches and Colby in the back.
Yeah.
Put Ches in there and then move
back.
I think Kirtley used to play 15 for the Bulls actually, so he could also go to the back. So there are options in that sense that you can move one of the wingers to the back and cover those positions, or that position in particular. I actually thought he might bring maybe bring Andre back into the squad. I don't know if that means bringing him off the bench or if that means bringing him in at 10 and then bringing someone like Sasha or Mani in off the bench. Andre would be an option at 12, for example.
Yeah.
So I think somehow Andre would be a part of the squad. And then I think there would be some changes to the forwards. Maybe starting Bowen Fenter, because he did really well this time round. Maybe trying to start with the Jan Hendrik Wessels, for example. Those would be the changes that I could imagine working quite well. Maybe keep the experienced guys.
What are we talking about in the locks department?
Luet is fit again, so
Is he
he's
fit
travelled.
again?
He's fit
Okay.
again, so I doubt you'll see him start though. I think Ruan Nokia's and that mix with Ruan Nokia and Eben is just so good. I think again it is. I think if you look at sort of the list of priorities, I think winning the game is the priorities, and that's why I think I wouldn't be surprised at sort of a Villy at 15, because I don't see him losing us the game. And I think a stopgap solution is not necessarily something that Rassie does. Like I don't see Rassie playing someone in 15 who hasn't had minutes at 15 before for the Springboks. That's kind of my assumption. I don't see them making Cheslin a 15. I don't see him or him playing there. Or
I think he could slot in there if he has to during the game, but maybe not to start. We'll see. I think none of us have ever managed to predict anything that Rassie's ever done. So,
and it's a what do you call it? A problem of
Convenience.
abundance.
yeah. Anything else on South Africa, Argentina?
Yeah, because we only talk about the ref when when we lose. Let's talk about the ref when we win. I think the penalty count was pretty equal on both sides. I don't think it favored one or the other. I actually thought that what I really liked about the way that Angus Gardner refed the game is his communication. No, he didn't get all the calls right in my eyes, subjectively, but the way that he communicated it, I think he mitigated more penalties being conceded by each team. So, if there was a guy who went in the ruck, he was very loud and vocal about 8, get out, you're too late, well done, thank you for getting out. There was, it was
polite.
It was appreciation, thank you. Maybe a little bit over the top for some people, but I thought it was enabling the game to flow by him sort of warning people before they stepped over the line, instead of letting people step over the line and then stopping the game and sort of giving that penalty. So I thought that way of the way that he managed it in that regard and his communication, including the TMOs and the sideline assistant refs, I thought was very well done, regardless of whether he got all the calls right or wrong.
I think if you're being critical of refereeing, I think it's important to really celebrate good performances. I think he had a great game, and I had a great game just because of the reasons you said. I felt like there was no point where you felt like he wasn't in control of the game, and I think that's the problem with World Rugby. It's sort of they yo-yo between, well, we want referees to interpret the laws, and they should speak to both captains before in the dressing rooms before the game, and and then on the other hand they're like, we don't want referees having too much of a influence on the game. I think those two worlds are too far apart. I think someone like Angus Gardner on Saturday, really, the players know exactly what he wants from them. I think that's a key point. I think because he tells them, and I think because of that, there's less grey zones in interpreting his interpretation, because he's very clear and vocal about it. I think might need to send any referee who is refereeing Argentina to some Spanish lessons, because no comprende there a lot of the time. I had a couple of good giggles. At one point, he spoke to the number 9, and the first thing he said to the number 9 was, "You're a good player. You're a great player. don't do that again. And the Argentinian was just like,
CCC.
yeah, no comprende. So that was quite funny. And I remember a lot of the time, a lot of the Argentinian captains, which is obviously not their fault. Their first language is Spanish, but I thought that was quite funny. But outside of that, I thought he was brilliant.
We learned, Klaus and I on YouTube, actually just before this podcast, that the only way you can speak about a referee online is if you first tell someone that you're from a different country. So the Australia-New Zealand game, you'll go through the comments, and then it'll be like, as an Irishman, I thought the referee was poor. As a Welshman, I thought he did well. So you first have to tell people where you're from.
As a German,
As a German, you're not allowed to say anything.
yeah.
So that's just sort of, that seems to be where people take credibility from, is like, where's he from? Yeah. Because if you're South African and you're saying something nice about the referee, you must have won the game. If you're South African and you're complaining about the referee, you will have lost.
You got to first claim you're a neutral.
Yes.
And people like to say that by telling you where they're from. Here's my postal code, which means I am a neutral.
Yeah. All right, let's go on to New Zealand versus Australia. I think, Dominic, I don't know if I remember this completely correctly, but I do believe you thought Razor would be out of a job come today.
I did say that. I also said that I don't think New Zealand had hit rock bottom after Wellington yet. I'm not going to lie, I still don't think it's the case. I still see it getting worse before it gets better. I think hats off to them, credit to them. I think the Eden Park aura is maintained. I'll admit I've only watched the highlights. I think there was some contentious refereeing decisions. Maybe you guys can unpack because I'm not too deep into it. But a win's a win.
Well, I mean, one can.
And we can speak about predictions going into this weekend, but you won't be surprised what my prediction is.
Well, I mean, the Eden Park aura, you mentioned it. This is, I mean, purely just to stoke the fire, but does the Eden Park aura that everyone makes so much of this impact referees into making poor decisions? And are then away teams disadvantaged playing New Zealand there?
As a South African... no, I didn't. Please, you watch the game or at least know a bit more about the referee.
Well, I think yes. I think the whole aura of it and the whole history of it does put a lot of pressure on the referee in the sense of, it's the same as like if you're reffing the World Cup final. It's like, oh shit,
it's the final.
This is what the result has been all the time. I don't want to be that guy who fucks it up.
Yeah.
And now goes, oh, well, New Zealand, you're out of a record that you've held for the last 50 games because of a refereeing decision that you've incorrectly made. So let's rather just default to letting New Zealand win and keep that streak alive.
Wow.
I'm saying that in jest.
For the
but also a little bit of truth.
For the neutral, for the person that didn't unpack, talk us through some of the most contentious decisions. I saw the Australian side were extremely vocal about the bad decisions.
Putting me on the spot here, Dominic. I also only watched the highlights and read the comments. I ended up watching a little bit more URC than I did watch the Australia
allowed,
game.
Klaus.
Apologies, fans, 150 fans. But what I read in the comments from a lot of neutral Welshmen was that there was a lot of penalties given to New Zealand when Australia was attacking, which seemed to stifle their momentum to score tries, which when you look at the scoreline, I think it was a 9-point difference. It's quite close, I think.
Yep.
8 point, 9 points.
9 points difference.
So
it's not a resounding victory by New Zealand, but I don't think anyone expected that because Australia are good. They're definitely better. Eddie Jones came out recently, I don't know if it was last week, and said all this harping on about how Scott Robertson is not a good coach because New Zealand are struggling currently. That's all bullshit, he says, because New Zealand were bad before Scott Robertson got there. Like, they were already struggling under Fozzie, and probably even before that, almost all the way back until right after they won their last World Cup, they've been going through sort of change. It's just that when New Zealand goes through change, the whole world goes, you're shit.
Yeah, I would also argue that just the parity is sort of shifted in global rugby, and I think it's just the reality of just different players that have emerged. One of them being the Springboks, but also Ireland. England are always a fixture. Yeah. The French have emerged through their very strong domestic league, and I think just 5 years ago, that just wasn't established yet. And I think if anything, it's the
10
the
years
levels.
ago.
or
Let's put 10.
Yeah,
Let's put
10 years ago, you're not speaking about the Irish beating New Zealand as often as they have, or South Africa, and I think we've touched on why that might be, but I just think it's also the game of rugby is growing. I think competitions like the URC, where there is more of an opportunity for club players from all the nations to kind of get good professional game time, is influencing all of this. And I think
if there's one cautionary tale to take out of the last 10 years maybe, is you do need to constantly plan for the future. I mean, you saw what happened to Wales. They were on top of world rugby for a good amount of time, and they sort of rested on their laurels for a little bit too long. Squad became too old, and then they looked and had no one to replace them.
And it's the perfect storm, unfortunately. I think a lot of this is also the after effects of things like Corona. I think, in nations where maybe rugby union, where the nations themselves and the unions themselves didn't have enough money to kind of float the union through those times without crowds and audiences, but as well as where rugby union maybe died off or was dying off a little bit, Corona came at the worst possible time and things like that. So, and it's easier maybe for bigger brands or bigger countries to be able to bounce back, I think, as well. And there I'm very happy to say, New Zealand haven't had it easy, I think, in the sense that they are a very small country. Corona kind of came through. They've geographically, it's way more difficult just geographically for them to kind of try and find opponents in the same time zone to host a competition. And if anything, maybe they should be looking up north to Japan and trying to talk to them and say, hey, listen, they've got a great...
You want to be our whipping boys.
Well, club rugby, I mean.
Anytime a giant falls, though, the rest laugh and point finger and enjoy it. It's the same in a footballing sense that happened to Man United after Sir Alex Ferguson left. The fact that New Zealand put together the longest era of dominance, I think, in any professional sport. Of course, now that they're not there anymore, everyone will point fingers and find the flaws in them.
Razor is a phenomenal coach. You can't take away his accreditations.
Good dancer.
And a phenomenal break dancer as well. But you can't take away the fact that he's got a shit ton of silverware that he's accumulated with the Crusaders especially.
Yeah, but they only play amongst themselves down there.
Yeah, but even when they were playing against us, they would whip us.
Yeah,
they would whip
shit
us
out of us
at our home, right?
Yeah.
So, you can't take that away from him. He's a phenomenal coach and he knows what he's doing. But there's three things, and Dominic's alluded to them already. The one is South Africa.
Wild that when you count three things, this is the first finger you count with.
Yeah.
That is insane. Anyways.
No, that was just a weird...
Clearly psychopath.
Yeah, little brain fart.
Carry on.
Anyway, the three things being, as Dominic said, South Africa having, or kind of alluded to, South Africa having been removed from Super Rugby. So they're only sort of playing amongst themselves. Even though we weren't beating the New Zealand teams all that often, it was still something else, and it was still a different type of style of rugby that they had to deal with. So that's the one thing. The second thing being their international eligibility. They are shooting themselves in the foot, not allowing Richie Mwanga, for example, to come and play for them. They've got a massive problem at fly half. There you have a fly half, bring him back. Every other nation in the world is doing it to different degrees. You guys just
long may they hold on to that fucking belief that is that is not right.
And then the third thing, obviously, being that, as Dominic said, the rest of the world is caught up.
Yeah,
and that's just the fact of the matter. And you can't put that all on Razor, and you also couldn't have Ian Foster. I don't know, maybe Ian Foster wasn't the greatest, but you can't put that on Scott Robertson.
No. I'm coming back to and you can use me as a consultant if they want. The Japan idea is definitely something they should look at.
Okay.
I mean it genuinely at a club level, because there's so much money and there's so much interest in rugby in Japan, and a lot of the New Zealand guys that do eventually go, or large portions similar to the South Africans, end up in the Japanese league.
Yep.
And I can understand the gripes with New Zealand and Australia not wanting to do that with European clubs because of the geographics of it. If you want to bring people in, they first have to fly across the globe. I'm serious. You go look at the Japanese league and you say to them, listen, we have great. We can help you grow the game. We can help you improve your national side. We've got players that want to earn a little bit more money, or at least want to explore different avenues. Let's do it and create a league and pull them into it. I think that would genuinely benefit. And I don't mean this in a condescending or patronizing way in any form. I think it's a road that they should look to travel.
Yeah. Let's look at next week. Or this coming weekend, and try and hazard some predictions again for both games. And we'll start with our prediction king.
I'm 6-0. I mean 0-6. No. We'll start with South Africa. Let's start with, actually, we're on the subject of Australia and New Zealand. Australia by 12.
Okay.
By 12.
Yes.
Where are they playing?
I'm just checking now.
In Australia.
The game is
In Perth, I think.
Perth, yeah.
Is it Perth?
Mini South Africa.
Mini South Africa.
Perthfontein.
Perthfontein. I also actually think Australia is going to do it.
I also think so.
So
if you're a betting man, put some money on New Zealand.
So we're all prediction kings now.
Because we get it wrong every time. So I would say, I don't know, 12 seems a little bit much to me. Yeah. But I think it is going to be within a bonus point for New Zealand. So I'm going to say 5.
I was going to say 6. I think it's going to be tight, but I think, God, I hope they can do it. Jesus, I don't know when the last time was that they beat New Zealand, but I think it feels like a long time ago.
Well, they haven't won the Bledisloe since in 23 years, I think. Yeah. Just wild.
And in the other game, South Africa taking on Argentina, or actually Argentina taking on South Africa. It's Argentina's home game in the well-known Argentinian city of London.
At Allianz.
Oh yeah, the Allianz Stadium.
The Allianz Stadium.
Shame.
Formerly known as Twickenham. I think South Africa is not going to run as riot as we did in Durban, but we shall also beat them by 20.
Me and you are thinking a lot alike today. I'm not going to go 25.
Okay.
More.
Dom's putting up cricket scores.
Dominic's putting up by 38.
No.
37 wasn't enough.
It will. I don't think it'll be as high scoring, because I do think Rassie will put the first thing on the top of his list will be, let's make sure we get the win. But I think it's going to be by 30 plus. I think. Okay. Yeah. And that means South Africa lift the trophy.
Retain the Rugby Championship, defending champs.
Champs again.
Champions of everyone's hearts.
As the rest of the rugby world knows, we will be super gracious in victory. Yeah. You can expect nothing less. Yeah. Let's go over to the URC, which kicked off last weekend. I don't know if I want to hand it over to you first. I don't know. Do you want to apologize, or is there anything you'd like to say?
The thing is, I think most of this has happened offline, off the podcast.
So I think on the actual podcast last week, I said we couldn't do it, but I was giving John Dobson another chance. I'm a big fan of John Dobson.
He must have fucking been listening. He's like, oh Jesus, there's my chance.
I'm not gonna lie. When I was watching that game, I did go on my phone to see if there was an international game between Ireland and another nation, because I couldn't understand how they were struggling.
Good Lord, I had a lot of Leinster players in my fantasy side. But the starting kind. And
right, I'll run you through a few of the results for our people listening and watching. It was 35-0 for the Stormers against Leinster. Glasgow beating the Sharks 35-19, and Ulster beating the Dragons 42-21. Those were all on Friday. And on Saturday, the Bulls beat Ospreys 53-40. High scoring game there in Pretoria. Zebra surprisingly beating Edinburgh 31-28. Scarlets losing to Munster 34-21. Cardiff beating your team, the Lions, 33-20. And Connacht beating Benetton 26-15.
Let's start with that. Let's start with the big 35-0 result for the Stormers. I think it's not something that Leinster are not accustomed to doing, and the Irish side sending like
weaker teams
to South Africa. I think they've underestimated where the South African sides are comparatively.
I would listen. The Stormers team essentially finished bottom of the Currie Cup log.
Yeah,
I would have also underestimated them if I was sending a team down.
Imagine what the Lions are going to do to the Leinster team. No,
but yeah, I mean, I think it's a very clear case of Leinster jotting down. They've got a strategy for the season.
Probably also still resting the Lions, the British and Irish Lions players.
Yeah, because they did go on holiday. They did go on holiday a little bit later.
Ages ago.
No, they did go a little bit of holiday a little bit later and were given extended breaks. I know that. The thing is, I think also just, there's not been any domestic rugby in Ireland. They're coming out of their off season, so I think all these players will not have been battle hardened. And I think in the greater context of the season, I think it's something that they probably saw and they said,
Did you say it was the best time to play Leinster last week?
I said if you got to hope that they're coming out of off season and they will take time to get into their play. Therefore, probably the best, and it clearly is. Or maybe you're just brilliant.
What about Ospreys getting 40 points on the Bulls, or Cardiff beating Lions?
New coach for the Bulls. Yeah. First thing. Second thing, the Bulls started terribly. I mean, I think
Lions. In the Lions game.
Yeah, but that's away from home too.
Yeah, listen, I do think the Stormers Leinster game you need to see it in isolation. I don't think that it's sort of says too much about where the Stormers are at or says too much about where Leinster are at. I'm not going to call it a fluke because they played really well.
Yeah.
And to shut any team out, especially if it's Leinster, is a gargantuan effort. But I don't think I'm not gonna say that Leinster aren't going to make the top 8 now.
From what I saw though, the Ospreys played both the Welsh sides that you just mentioned against South Africa did play their full strength teams.
Yeah.
So I think that's the difference here. I think you literally got a squad of reserves that's come down for that game, and a squad of reserves coming out of preseason.
And the home teams in South Africa won. The Bulls.
Yeah.
Even though it wasn't convincing, it's good. It's important to win your home games. On the other side of the coin, I don't think many of us expected the Sharks to beat Glasgow away from home. I don't know if any of you predicted the other way, but I didn't.
I didn't either.
I didn't give them a chance, and that's not. For once, me saying the Sharks are terrible. That's just going to be a very, very tough place to go, is Glasgow away from home.
But I like this approach by the Irish sides in particular in terms of boxing clever. And I've said it before, when we look at managing squads and stuff, I think the South Africans have to get better at that. And I think, I think the Sharks can go to somewhere like Glasgow and say, you know what, we're missing a lot of our Springboks. They're still with the South African team. And I think that approach is managing minutes across a season and looking at your fixtures and going, okay, well, these are the where we should be getting our points. I think that's the way to go with the volume of rugby that's being played. And I think Leinster will probably be thanking themselves that they were able to give some respite to their starters in the beginning of the season, knowing that it's probably not going to affect their standing in the log.
Yeah.
I think teams like the Bulls and the Sharks can do that because they have the amount of players they need.
Yeah.
But the likes of the Stormers and definitely the likes of the Lions, they just don't have those players to be able to manage them.
Well, I mean, I think we need to call a spade here. Dom saw the team sheet for the Stormers and immediately wrote into the group, "That's shit."
You got to hope that Leinster haven't been training very well.
And I took a big offense to that.
Listen, if that team filled you with pride and joy, then...
Well, the thing is, that's just our team. With us, Sasha, Mani, and Damien in it.
Yeah, fair enough.
That's just who they are.
Yeah. And Volkolo. And Nkunu now. But Nkunu is still injured, yeah.
Yeah, can't count on the... And Kobus Reina.
But
it's pretty awesome to see Ruan Ackerman.
Yes.
He played very well.
Yeah.
But sorry, on the subject of Lions, and also think back to last season and how well the Lions started, and I think I would attribute that also to the Lions having come out of a good Currie Cup campaign last season as well. I think they also got to the final. Didn't they win it?
No, it was exactly the same as it was this year. We lost in the 82nd minute due to a penalty kick.
There you go. But there you see the benefit of a squad maybe not as laden with Springboks.
Yeah.
That Currie Cup team, out of all the franchises, probably most resembles their full strength side in the URC. And last season they didn't start away from home; they started at home, which helped the Lions.
I think it's a big difference,
and it makes a massive difference. I think traveling across there.
I think if Cardiff do kick on from where they were last year, then playing Cardiff away from home also isn't easy.
Because they finished like 6th or something.
Yeah,
I think 6th, 7th, 8th, somewhere.
If they do kick on from last year and they are sort of building on that, then actually losing by 13 points isn't a train smash, because they still scored 20 points. So it's, I mean, listen, one game week is not going to show you much.
Yeah.
I think if anything, maybe it shows you that Edinburgh are in for a topsy-turvy season again. I know we spoke about sort of them being sort of almost the ifs and buts. You never know which team is going to rock up. But clearly, not many people are traveling to Italy these days and rocking up with a performance there, because that's where they got beaten.
Yeah, Italy is a different beast now. They're not the whipping boys of either the Six Nations or the URC. So, especially the likes of Benetton, very, very strong team, and Zebra is also just getting better and better.
Should we run through some of the games that are coming up this weekend?
Sure.
And see if we can't hazard where this championship is going to go from here. On Friday, Stormers are playing Ospreys at home. Stormers.
Yeah.
We're going to win this competition now. The Sharks are taking on the Dragons in Wales.
Yo.
This is going to be a John Plumtree special.
Shit versus shit.
If they
12-7.
if they cannot beat the Dragons, then just hope and pray when your Springboks come back that somehow. Although we said this last season and they were atrocious all season, they got
With
into
the
top four.
Springboks. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're going to win.
Were they third in the log?
Small. Just quickly, it will be that Stormers Ospreys game is going to be very interesting because it's the Ospreys first team, and it's going to be I look forward to it.
Listen, I'm confident now.
Okay.
I can't back down now.
Against a team that scored 40 points against the Bulls.
God.
Didn't think of that part.
Yeah, but that was at altitude. Nobody comes down to the Cape.
Yeah, too much oxygen.
Yeah. Edinburgh are taking on Ulster at home. I think that's a tricky one to predict.
So that is a tough one. I would argue Ulster. I think Ulster
also.
have had a really good
Ulster
off,
started really well.
and I think they've had a good off season in terms of recruitment as well. From what I've seen,
Yeah.
outside of Augustus as well, they've managed to poach some guys, and I think
so we
they'll
think
be.
Edinburgh are starting lose.
I think so.
Okay.
Yes.
In the next game, this is on Saturday, Connacht is taking on Scarlets.
Also a tough one to predict because Connacht blow extremely hot and cold. Iwane had a great game. He was on my bench in fantasy. They
Played. They did well against Benetton.
Yeah, I think it's. Yeah.
The Scarlets aren't that dangerous.
Connacht.
Okay. Benetton taking on Glasgow in Italy.
Oh, Humdinger.
Buongiorno.
Buongiorno.
I'm going to go with Benetton.
Oh my God. No. It's going to be Glasgow. I think Glasgow are going to be in the final this year.
Okay.
You heard it here first. Like, watch the Bulls last year.
You should actually watch the Bulls this season.
Bulls play Leinster.
Oh, I think the Bulls will beat them. I think despite the Bulls starting very badly against the Ospreys, I think they were 14-0 down very early on in that game. There's some real presence. Like Marcel Coetzee had an absolute barnstormer. Jan Serfontein getting on the scoring sheet early on in the season. Embrose Papiri at 9 is also brilliant. I mean, how that guy misses out, that just shows how good the South African scrum half selection is. I think they're a great side. I think they'll probably. I don't know if they'll do what the Stormers did to Leinster. Honestly, I don't think so. But I think because I think it'll be a bit more of a measured approach.
I just don't see Leinster starting with 2 losses in a
Thing
URC
is, it's the same
season.
squad.
Ugh. I can't bring myself to.
Bulls.
Right, I'm going Bulls too. Come on. And then in the last game, it's Munster taking on Cardiff, which is also a very tough one to predict.
Good game. Munster under new coach.
New coach. Cardiff, are they cooking? Are they not cooking?
The new Wales.
The back. Cardiff.
Ooh,
You're taking Cardiff for an away win? I'm going to go Munster.
I'm gonna go Munster too.
Right.
This is why I'm always at the bottom of the log. when
I
you
was
look at
actually
our prediction.
prediction fucking top of the round there
Yeah, you
this
did.
week.
You won.
And I actually forgot to predict the Stormers Leinster game. Wouldn't have helped me though, because I would have predicted Leinster.
I don't think many sane people predicted the Stormers to win that game.
Well, in our league, nobody predicted it.
Well, one guy did.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Michi.
Yeah, he's crazy.
My
Anyway,
statement stands.
yeah. Yeah, but exciting to have the URC back.
Yeah.
And something I look forward to following. Are the Lions? Who are the Lions playing? No one.
Did I not get the Lions?
There was no Lions game.
But now,
Maybe they're on a break there.
are you playing on Sunday?
Nice.
Yes, you're playing Zebra.
Well, it's a holy day for a holy team.
In Italy.
Absolutely no fucking
Lose.
chance. No chance.
Yeah.
No chance.
What, for the Lions?
For the Lions, no chance, bro.
After they've just... Why are Zebra playing 2 games at home?
No,
Because they played Edinburgh at home.
So
That's disgusting. Match fixing.
But aren't you? Where are you playing? Where are you playing Ospreys in Wales all of a sudden, or what?
Very true.
disgusting.
Right. I think on that bombshell, time to end it.
Well done to the English ladies.
Welcome to the well done to the English ladies. Not
Welcome. Welcome to the English
Welcome
ladies.
to the English ladies in the viewership. There was a little bit of drama in the sense that we played our game at the same time as the final. That did not detract at all from it being the highest attended game, women's game in history.
Yeah.
And I think very close to the highest men's game.
Yeah.
It wasn't far off. So I think great for the women's game. The Women's World Cup, I think, was a massive success. England, I think, were favorites by a long shot, and they did convincingly beat Canada in the final. Great for Canada to be in the final, though. For them to beat New Zealand in the semis was, I think, something special for them as well. And the women's game will go from strength to strength, regardless what the male Springboks do with their kickoff times.
Yeah.
I'm quite interested to see if the Canadian women's rugby, having been so successful, will do anything to the men's game in Canada. If that's going to sort of motivate them.
They have qualified for this World Cup.
Kick on now.
They have qualified for the next World Cup, so that's good. And I also think that the proximity to the US and all the funding flowing into the US now will definitely spill over, I think, in terms of interest. I think also college sport is massive in North America. I know that women's rugby in Canada at university level is a very well supported and well funded sport. So I think I don't think it'll go unnoticed in Canada for sure. Also, if women's rugby is not the biggest sport in the world of all sports by 2030, it's definitely South African Rugby Union's fault. Just putting it out there.
All right. And on that,
some insiders
There's
on
on
a big prediction there by Dom. It's time to end. Thanks for watching. We'll see you again next week.
Thank you. Bye.